Good morning, evening, afternoon, everyone. My name is Mark,
And I'm Zoe.
and we are the Board Adventurers. We're back at you. We're back with you today for another late to the game. Today, we're doing another game from Stonemaier for Stonemaier month. We're doing the ever popular Wingspan. This game is published by Stonemaier Games and designed by Elizabeth Hargrave. Now, the gameplay of Wingspan is you are kind of building out a bird kind of like environment. And you're going to get one of these large player boards, these fold-out player boards, which are like pretty nice. And then you're going to get a set of cards. So you're going to start off by drawing 5 cards. And with that, you're going to get a resource. You're going to get one of each of the resources in the game. You're going to get cherry, fish, worm, wheat, and there's one more. Like a mouse. Of the 5 in your starting hand, you're going to keep as many as you want. So say, for example, if I kept 3. For each card that you keep in your starting hand, you have to pay one of those resources out. So if I was to start with 3 cards, I would now start with 2 of the food resources. Right? And then the game will progress. So the game is over 4 rounds. Each round has progressively less turns as you go, because one of those turns that you have will be used for a goal condition. So on your turn, you're going to do one of 4 things. You're going to either play a bird, you're going to take food from the bird feeder, which is this like kind of dice tower that you roll dice in and then signifies the food that comes out. You can either lay eggs, or you can draw bird cards, either from the deck face down or from a face up pile of 3. And when you draw cards from that pile, they don't reset until the end of your turn. The interesting thing about this game is that once you start playing cards onto the field, the action that you take will kind of proctor more actions down the road. So say, for example, if your first row, you filled out 3 birds on that first row, you'll then get to take 2 die from the bird feeder and then take any actions on those birds further down. And the bird actions come in a variety of different abilities. Some will give you the ability to tuck cards behind birds for points. Some will let you take food from the feeder, take food from the supply. Some will let you draw cards. Some will let you kind of like draw birds to see if, like their wingspan is larger than theirs, and then add more tucking into it. At the end of the game, at the end of each round, there's going to be, a certain goal condition that's, placed into it. And then you can either do a placement where it's, if you're first, second, third, fourth, you'll get, points based on how you score on that. Or you can flip to the other side, the blue side, which gives you points based on how many of that goal you've achieved per bird that you have. At the end of the game, you're going to combine the points on birds, the points on eggs, how many eggs you laid on the board, any points on cards, any tucking, and all that's going to combine to your total score for you to win the game. And that's a pretty simplified way of describing what Wingspan is, but what do you think?
Yeah, so for Wingspan, I think it's a game that accomplishes what it is trying to do, which is kind of be a pretty breezy, relaxing, chill sort of game. Mm-hmm. I guess it comes down to whether or not that is all you want from your board games.
Right.
I do like the cyclical nature of Wingspan, which is draw a bird, get food, play the bird, lay eggs, rinse and repeat, with some kind of variables thrown in based off of what other players do in the game. I do like the card abilities. Each bird having a specific ability changes kind of what you get or can do, or skips certain steps that you do within the cyclical kind of nature of the game. But I like the game. I wish there was this kind of a little bit more of a punch to it. And I feel like I played it a bunch of times, and I can't even say I dislike the game. Right. It just there's not. It doesn't have something that kind of makes me want to come back to it.
That's fair.
It just kind of feels like a very breezy, chill game that I kind of would want to play with certain family members, but not one that I would want to bring out in like a board game night, if that makes any sense.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, what do you think of the game?
Yeah, so I think for me, when I first heard of Wingspan, this was back prior to the pandemic, or like right around the pandemic time. I was kind of on the hype of Wingspan.
Yeah.
And that's what made me go out and buy the game. And to be honest, for me, I was very disappointed when I first played it, those first couple times, because it felt very mechanical for what I was doing. It felt like I didn't really have control over the cards that were coming to me. I didn't have control of how I could reset the bird feeder, or even like, how to play birds. Because sometimes when you're playing birds further down the line, you need to lay eggs on those birds and then take those eggs off for you to play them. And it could have been just luck of the draw in my case, but I was not a fan of this game.
Yeah.
I've recently more come around to it, just from recent plays. Just because I had played this at the World Series of Board Gaming, and I played someone that showed me that you can play this very tactfully, and can put a strategy into it. With that being said, I think there's a little more bite than I first thought in this game.
Okay.
But this is still on the lighter side that I would think this would be something good to introduce someone that is maybe taking their jumping point off of, just starting, going to their board game hobby. But I don't know if I would introduce this to a seasoned gamer that wants something that doesn't feel like you're just going through the motions of taking the actions.
Yeah, it's funny. What's interesting about this is kind of like we start off at different points in terms of our opinion on the game and have gone the opposite direction.
Yeah.
Like when I first played this game, I was very high on the game. But at that point, I haven't played a ton of games to really base it off of. So I like the breezy kind of going through the motions aspect of the game, because one thing that this does do well is gives you positive reinforcement. Like whatever you're building, it's giving you an ability that can be used. So it's good at giving you positive reinforcement. And you started off not liking it and kind of came around to liking it a little bit.
Because like one of the cool things about the game though is that once you start playing birds, you actually start cascading actions down the road. And if you can find cards that kind of create that flow into each other, like say if you have a card that lets you take a fish and then the next bird that you have needs a fish to do something else, you're now kind of like paying into that engine. Yeah,
that's what I mean. The positive reinforcement works well for people who don't play a ton of board games, because kind of like whatever you're doing, you're getting something out of it.
Right.
It's not just playing a bird and getting points, it's playing birds, getting points, and getting kind of an ability.
Right.
And going like, oh, I can do this now, which is good for this type of game and kind of how light it is. I still like the game. I'm just so cooled on it that I never would want to pull it out. Right.
And I think for me, like I've kept this game just because I think there's been people in our group that have not played this game yet. But now I'm looking at like I'll probably keep this just to introduce to more people down the road. Because it seems like one of those games you can easily introduce while still having a little bit of gameplay here and there.
And one thing I do like about the game, I know a lot of people think of this as responsible for the nature themed trend. I do like the theme of this game. Don't feel that it's very generic. It's very specific. Which I do like, and I kind of appreciate that with all of Elizabeth Hargrave games. Right. She makes nature themed games, but I wouldn't lump them in with the generic earth-based, just forced nature-themed games. All of her games are very, very, very specific, which I do enjoy. Right. I get more out of it than a lot of other games with these similar themes.
Yeah, like she definitely has a definite stamp on like those nature-themed games. Like when you hear like, I think Fox Experiment was one of hers. Yeah. When it came out, it just felt like, oh, this is something, this designer would create.
Yeah, and same thing with Mariposa. It just feels very... Even the actions that you take in feels very specific towards the specific theme that she's going for. Right. I do feel that with Wingspan. And I like the facts of the birds as she's playing them. It feels like you're kind of learning something a little bit too. Yeah. I do like that and appreciate that with this game. This is another strong suit. I feel like the iconography is very efficient. I have zero complaints with the iconography in this game. Which I do appreciate as well. I feel like it's a very well developed game, and a very well thought up and made game. It just doesn't hit for me.
Yeah, that's totally understandable, because I feel the same way. To me it feels a little more situational. Because sometimes when you get a certain goal that comes out, like
Yeah.
if one of your opponents gets one of those wild nests, and you have multiple goals that require nests of a certain type, they immediately get those two, as opposed to you need to now build into one of the two and then build the other one too. And for me, I like being a completionist in games. I like to try to fill out the board.
Yeah.
I've had a hard time trying to fill out all 15 spaces.
I don't think it's possible in this game. They don't give you enough turns to do that.
I think if you can draw out the correct birds, possibly, and you draw out the right combination, you might be able to have enough food to keep playing them out.
Makes sense.
But yeah. So
one thing I did want to bring up is kind of like I wonder what our opinions of this game would be if we played the expansions for it, because it feels like both of us needs a bit more rule sets for this game, and I wonder that the expansions was really put this over the top for us.
I know just because we've played only base, I haven't really tried to look out to try to find those expansions. But I've heard Oceania might add something to it. Yeah. I don't know much about the other ones though. Yeah. I haven't looked into it.
No worries. I'm just curious if that's
Yeah, maybe something worth looking into now that we're kind of like curious getting back into it.
Yeah, definitely something I think we could revisit. But yeah, so in terms of a buy, skip, or play, where does this rank for you?
Yeah, for me, this, to be honest, this isn't my favorite Elizabeth Hargrave game. I prefer Mariposas over this game, just because there's a certain push your luck to it. In this one, it felt a little mechanical that I just couldn't get over, and there was just too situational when it came to drawing your food, drawing your birds, and kind of the goals coming out. It just felt a little too like each game is going to just be kind of like up to that luck factor. With that said, I'm right down the middle. I'm right down on a play. I think you need to play this to see if this is going to be your kind of game. I want to say, at least for me, this really isn't my kind of game. I like something where I am in more control of my actions, and it feels a little bit more like I can mitigate some of the things that my opponents are trying to do. But with that being said, this is still a great game. This still has some good artwork. It's just not a game that would fall into my wheelhouse. Yeah. What about you?
I wish I had a very different opinion from you to make this video a little bit more interesting, but I'm of the same mind here. I think this game is straight down the middle in terms of a play. I have no real complaints other than it doesn't have enough for me to really push it over the edge, give it that oomph. The cyclical nature of it is something that's kind of would work for someone who's new to playing board games. But I guess for us where we are right now, and I guess a board gaming journey or adventure, it's not there for us yet.
Right. Yeah. And like for all we know, this could definitely change as the years go on. And I wasn't tuned in to trying to play Wingspan ever again until last year. Yeah. And when I played it again, I was like, oh, there are ways that this game can add strategy and mitigation in it.
Same. It's like when we decided to review this game, I was like, okay, I gotta play this more. Yeah. Played it more and have no complaints of any of the playthroughs that I had. And then now that we review it, I probably won't play this again unless I want to introduce it to someone who I think would like this. Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot that I like about this game that I wish other games would have. Like the very efficient iconography, how not short the game is, but it doesn't overstay its welcome in terms of length.
That's true.
The card quality is great. The art is great. It just doesn't push it over the edge for me, and that's why I'm just giving it a straight play.
That's fair. I for me would also recommend possibly playing this with more players. I like the idea, like even though you have more players and you're cycling out the food a little quicker, and you might get it back around to you might be in the same situation where you can't draw food. I like the idea of cycling out the bird cards, because by the time it gets back to you, you might have new bird cards you can possibly draw into your hand, and with the food that you have, you might be able to play.
Yeah, that's 100%, because there's going to be a lot of turns where you're not going to go to the bird feeder because it doesn't have what you want. But if you're playing like a two-player game,
and then the next person is going to go, they're not going to take it, and now it's back to you. I'd have to draw more cards back in.
This game has to be played at, not has to be, but it should be played at.
I would recommend it like maybe 3 to 4 if I could.
Yeah, agreed there. But yeah, that's our late to the game review of Wingspan. Let us know your thoughts down below. Thanks for taking the time to watch the video. I'm Zoe.
I'm Mark.
See you on the next adventure.